Hey, are you a prior service man who you've been going through a constant state of transition and you're just wondering, what's this all about? What's going on? How do I use my background? Why are people not seeing me for who I really am? Well, if that's the case, I want you to really listen closely for today's podcast. I got 3 lessons for you that I have discovered about protectors, prior service men, whether that's from a military, first responder, ministry, or other background, something similar, to where we have given our life in dedication to the service of others. We've become so accustomed to suffering for other people that we have not learned how to live in that freedom that we have earned ourselves. And if that is you, I want you to listen very closely. Let's get started. Welcome to the KO podcast hosted by Kingdom Operatives. We are here to select, specialize, and send out leaders into their community. If you are a protector, someone who has a background in military or first responder, and you no longer have that structure, then this is the podcast for you. Each week, we will uppercut unbelief as we send you out to demonstrate the kingdom of God and the power that is in your presence. This is where we turn the hearts of the fathers back to their home. It is time to contend for tomorrow, today, because your legacy is waiting. I'm your host, Adam Jones, and it's an honor to serve you. All right, well, hey, for everyone who is new here at the KO podcast, I just want to welcome you. I want you to know how valued you are, how important you are to God and to us. The fact that you have subscribed and that you have been listening to this training, you can only grow from here. Okay, some people go through challenges, other ones grow through it. You are growing, you are expanding, and I am proud of you. As the owner of KO, as the trainer and the instructor for this type of training, I want you to know that it is just beginning. The podcast is an entry point. Towards the end, I'm gonna go ahead and let you know some other opportunities for you to be able to get even trained up more. Because think about it this way, you trained to get into the military, you trained to get into law enforcement, you trained to become a firefighter. Regardless of what you've done, you trained while you were in it, and then you got out and the training stopped, and that is not right. That's actually one of the key pieces of your life that have been disconnected. So look, I got 3 lessons for you. Number 3 is going to blow your mind. I think you're going to learn so much from it. So let's go ahead and get started with number 1. The first thing that I learned about protectors, and this happened by interviewing them, by having a lot of conversations over the past couple years, I have discovered that there are weapons of mass deception that have targeted the protector. These are real weapons. They are invisible, but they are real. And they are really experienced not only by the protector, but the protector's family. And I have labeled now 4 weapons of mass deception. The book that I'm currently working on, I believe, will have maybe 3 or 4 in there. But what I want you to know is that they are targeting the protector because the protector is a threat. Every protector I have spoken to has been targeted by one or more of these. Today I want to talk to you about one of them for our first point. The number 1 weapon of mass deception that I have seen absolutely destroy the lives of protectors, same one for me, is called the altar of impact. That's right, the altar of impact is something that targets the heart and the mixed motives of a protector to make an impact and to make the world a better place. And what I've found from research and from studying other people, including my own story, is that we are so committed to seeing the world become better that we ignore our own world. We follow popular advice in 2022 and earlier than then as well, but it was called, hey, put the blinders on and just stay focused. Now I'll tell you what, one of my strengths is focus, but when I put the blinders on, I can't see to my left and right. I can't see my peripherals. I can only see forward, which means if my family is not in position in front of me, I won't see them. And you know what I'll do? I'll sacrifice them on the altar of impacting other people. I will ruin marriage. I will ruin my relationship with my girls. And see, this is something that actually happened to me just a little while ago. This is how I learned it. This is how I've been able to create this term, is because it is real for me. I really went through some struggles after I got out of the military. And see, it had nothing to do with me really identifying only as a soldier or anything. Like, honestly, I was always in between transition of National Guard and active service. So sometimes I'd be a full-time civilian. It wasn't the fact that I didn't really have a place of service anymore. It's the fact that I permanently left my place of service. See, it's much bigger than the fact of just, hey, I'm not going to go to training anymore. It's that door has been shut. Now how do I make an impact? Now how do I help other people? What is God's plan for me? And I know that one of you on here listening right now, because I have heard about you, I have been informed about you through a friend of mine who's listened to your words, and apparently you've listened to our podcast, and you got hit with a bomb overseas. And when that happened to you, for years now you've been going through struggles. For years you've been wondering, hey, what is God's plan for me? Why is he having me suffer? The first thing I feel really compelled to tell you as a kingdom man is that God does not want you to suffer, and he is not trying to keep you suffering. There really is evil in this world. There really is a deceiver who wants to see you fall. But he will use what the deceiver has done to be able to help you and other people. See, God can use it for good, but it didn't mean he wanted it, okay? Understand that. You know, I've heard this term, and it's so important we hit on this, that God is sovereign, which means he's in full control. But we know that God's will is for none to perish. So sovereign is not the same thing as being in full control. So let's debunk this right now, okay? And I say this in risk of some of you not agreeing with me, and it's okay. I didn't agree with me just a little while ago either until I did further research on the original word of sovereignty. Sovereign, when we look at this, and I think it's Hebrew, I believe, it actually means it's like a rank. It's like God holds the highest rank. And who here knows that just because someone is the highest rank, it doesn't mean that they call the shots for every single play, every single mission, and everything goes perfectly. It just means they're the highest rank. It means there's nothing higher than them. Okay? But it doesn't mean everything that higher rank wants is going to happen. So look, point number one, weapons of mass deception do not discriminate. The altar of impact is vicious. It will absolutely attack you. And the thing about a weapon of mass deception, okay, a weapon of mass deception means it is going to attach to a hidden lie to destroy a lot of people in the process. And this brings us to number two. So let's get right into number two. And I'm sure you have questions about number one. Hey, look, we got some great resources for you coming up. Now, before I go to number two, I want to challenge you with this. If you are ready to train, if you are a protector, you are a prior service man, whether that is military, responder, minister, or something else along those lines, if that is you, I want you to go to leadwithko.com because I am so excited to tell you that we just went live with our next Crucible training. This will be our 5th round of training where we have served protectors just like you and other men of God, and we've equipped them to be able to learn how to lead with command presence. And we do this by actually informing you of these weapons of mass deception. Look, if you feel like you're heavy and you're overloaded and life is not getting easier and you feel so stressed and pressure is just pushing you down, then you need the Crucible. Only 5 days, that's it. And we're only going to do this 3 times a year going forward. So I'm telling you, if you miss this, you will regret it. I know it because I've heard it from other men who can't wait for the next one so they can sign up. So look, go to leadwithko.com and get a seat. It's a 5-day training. It's not 5 days like the whole, 24 hours of a day. These are 20-minute trainings over the course of 5 days where you will build camaraderie, you will be challenged with real training that's going to move you into action, and you'll absolutely start to radiate with a contagious confidence that is not only going to affect you, but it's going to affect those around you. So I want to see you there. I want to get to know you. This is our chance, finally, to build relationship. So if you're listening today, and maybe that wasn't you, you're not the prior service man, but you know one, I cannot stress this enough. Listen to me very closely. Over the course of 14 years between the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War, there were 7,000 deaths, 7,000 killed in action. Do not pull away. Listen closely. 7,000 killed in action in 14 years. There were 75,000 suicides from protectors, men and women, at that time frame. And I'm talking about only in the military. This is horrible. It is absolutely led by the deceiver. 100% the thoughts inside a man's head, inside a woman's head, that causes them to see they are out of commission, they are not operational anymore, therefore there's no purpose for their life. We are defeating that here in Kingdom Operatives on a national and eventually a global level. I have no doubt about it. So look, this matters too much. I need you to share it. Go to Lead with KO or share it with someone else. Sorry for the really long explanation, but guys, look, we have not pitched you one product since this podcast has started. We have not told you about one thing that you can invest in. This is it. We've been building up for this moment to help you be able to go to the next level. So, hey, you want to get trained up on the KO strategy? You want to detect the weapons of mass deception in your life? It starts with the Crucible. 5 days, leadwithko.com. So, hey, I'm going to jump right over to point number 2. So, point number 2, a protector will normally not take action until he sees that it's not just about himself. This is really important for you, for family members out there who you know a protector and you're wondering why do they just seem like they're suffering and they're going through life, going through the motions. Maybe they're like a disengaged dad or an angry husband and you just don't get why they're not changing. First of all, they don't know, they haven't been trained how, but also they usually will not change for themselves because they have been positioned to think of others, including you, even if maybe you're one of the people who are kind of experiencing the casualties of war, experiencing some destruction right now from those protectors that are around you. They're not going to change just for them. I'm pretty certain of this. When I found out that my wife was being affected by my blinders on, when I found out that my wife was actually being wounded by my lack of attention towards her, and then also my overly ambitious mindset of just wanting to find the next thing, but also drifting through the motions with the things around the house. When I found that out, I knew I needed to change. When I found out that my daughter was not you could just tell, guys, you can just tell. We were not that connected for some reason, and I didn't know why. I didn't know how to force the change. I could just tell there was something in the heart that was missing in me. I needed a heart transplant, right? So that being said, I changed because I saw other people were hurt because of me. It's the same thing for those around you. We change because we see the need to change, not from ourselves, but from others around us. Which brings us to point number 3. This is the one that I think was really going to blow you away. A protector usually will not call out his own drift. A protector will not define the drift. They will not be the one to say, I am drifting right now, and I should probably do something about it before I crash. 75,000 suicides in the example I gave you. You know how many divorces we've seen? You know how many just constant depression, states of depression have been developing over this time frame? I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's not good. Why? Because they'll keep drifting until they crash. And if you're the protector listening, look, all I want you to know is I get it. I was you. I was there before. It's like that. It's like night and day difference for my life, but also the snap of a finger. That feels how recent it was for me, okay? I know it hurts. I know it feels like no matter what you do, it's never enough for those around you. I know you're waiting for another mission and no one's giving it to you. But through KO, we can equip you and train you to be led into mission again, a greater mission, a mission that will produce all the motivation you've been wondering about. But the odds are you need someone else to call out your drift. So all I ask is that you will give other people the opportunity to be a voice in your life. You might not be a great communicator with your family, but there was a moment when you were in the service. You could be a minister who was in a church and you led some congregation. You knew how to communicate and you knew how to have challenging conversations too, didn't you? So why are you not doing it with your own family, with your wife, with your kids? It's because You're afraid, most likely, of any more rejection. And again, I get it. But maybe that's not the case for you. Maybe instead, you just don't even know how to start the conversation. Well, I would just encourage you today with this. Go up to your wife today and say, hey, look, I know that I haven't really been that fun to be around lately. I don't really know what's wrong with me. I'm at a point where I feel like I just don't know the purpose for my life, and I don't know how to be a good father, a good husband, and that's not fair to you or our family, but I want to make a shift. But how has this been affecting you? See, let someone in your life call out your drift. If it's a friend, have a similar conversation. If it's your kids, maybe your kids are older and you can actually say that, hey, look, I know I haven't really been that fun as a dad. By the way, that was the thing for me. I wasn't that fun. I still showed up. I was still present. I'm doing air quotes for anyone who's not watching on YouTube, because showing up is not the same as being present, right? I think most dads show up now. I'd say everyone, but that is not accurate. Most dads show up, but presence is very challenging to develop. So we're going to teach you that at Lead with KO, by the way. So go check that out, leadwithko.com. But nothing's more important than you getting trained. Nothing's more important than you finding a real community. See, the kingdom of God, I'm going to wrap up with this. The kingdom of God has two pieces to it when we started out, okay, from a very high level. I want to talk to you about the kingdom. Jesus did not bring a religion, he brought a kingdom. This is why in Isaiah it talks about, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. The main people that did not like Jesus were the ones who were the religious leaders of the time. Now, when I say religion, I don't mean don't go to church. That's not at all what I mean. I mean religious mindsets and belief systems, putting things together in order to earn God's approval or love, right? This is a very dangerous place to be. It's exactly where I was, by the way. I was religious. I was unaware of the kingdom. When I started to discover the kingdom, I realized a couple things from people in my life helping me out. First one, the kingdom is familial. Family is familial in nature. That means the nature of the kingdom, the nature of God's will for us here on earth, being led in our hearts by him, right? He's in the invisible, but he wants to see certain things come to manifestation. He wants to see them be produced here on earth. Is he wants to see family. So you need family. You need a camaraderie that lasts as a protector. And we want to provide that to you. Next thing, the kingdom is governmental. When we think of any kingdom, just think of an earthly kingdom for a second. Pick one. Pick one that has a king or a queen leading it. Any names come to mind? Probably. So when we look at this and we think of a kingdom has an economy, a kingdom has rules, regulations, protocols, a kingdom has a king or a queen. Got it? So a kingdom is governmental. Jesus constantly used governmental terms. He would say things like, he'd call someone an apostle. An apostle is not a religious term. An apostle was actually a term in the government of Rome for those who were sent out to build cultures that looked like Rome and other locations. I mean, way more than that, by the way, but just as an example, that is a governmental term. He calls us ministers. Minister was not a religious term, it's an administration. An administration, that's governmental. The minister of finance, that's governmental. Just think about this for a second. And why does that matter? Because what a government does is a government protects the people. A government puts together a governing system that actually helps shape and mold the direction of the citizens of a country. You are a protector. You are used to operating in the government. And you have learned in the past how to be part of a family. You have everything it takes to step into the kingdom with full power. Okay? Now, step one is accepting Christ as your Savior. It just is. He's the King of the kingdom. Okay? So when we accept that not only did he save us, but that he has totally reconciled us, he's redeemed us, he is putting us back into an amazing position in our life. He's going to make everything better for you. Doesn't mean life's going to get easier. It just means you're going to get better. Doesn't mean the storms are going to stop. It means you're going to learn to be a storm stopper. When you get that, game over, okay? Unbelievable. That's why we say born again. You were born again, born into Christ, so you are inseparable from him. So you know this. The next step is, what is salvation for? Is salvation just an entry point and that's the end? Hey, I made it to heaven. I'm going to go to heaven one day. Well, that actually sounds pretty selfish to me, by the way, as a protector. There's so much more to your salvation than you. Your salvation wasn't free. It was the most expensive thing ever. It might be free for you, but it was expensive for him. And that salvation is for something. That salvation is for an entry into a kingdom. I remember when I was leading a couple people to Christ over the past year, and the one young man, I was preaching, he raised his hand. By the way, I'm not a preacher. I'm a kingdom operative, man. I'm a business owner, okay? But sometimes I just go out there and I just want to serve in whatever way I can. And I was working with these young men in an urban missionary project. This kid raised his hand, accepted Christ. I went up and I talked to him afterwards. I said, is this your first time doing this? He said, yeah. I said, okay, cool. Well, look, salvation is just the start. I said, there's so much more to this story than just raising your hand and saying, I choose to follow Christ, okay? Because see, now you have a king, so now you can be in his kingdom. And the kingdom is ridiculously amazing. I don't know how to tell you this any other way other than through my experiences. Ever since I learned about the kingdom, I became contagiously confident. I became someone who moves in power. I mean, joyful, peaceful. You ask my wife, my whole life has changed. So those are the 3 points I wanted to cover with you today. And really, as a bonus to that third point with the person who calls out your drift, they're also probably going to be the person who says, I've seen you shift. I've seen you make a difference. I've seen you change. I love my wife. And I love who I have become now for her. I love who I've become for my daughters. So often, as a business owner who's trying to help you progress, I tell you all the bad stories. I tell you the ones about where I got a new crack in my armor. But you don't often hear about, I have never seen my marriage this good, ever. And I've been married for over 8 years. I've never felt such a deep connection to anyone in my life than my wife and my kids. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've never seen the connection, experienced it, and also like had someone else tell me about it. My wife is like, you are not the same man you were. Now look, I wasn't the bad guy. I was just a guy who had, honestly, some heart wounds. I had some weapons of mass deception that were really hurting me, and they were hurting those around me. And see, it wasn't because I was broken. You're not broken as a protector. You've been attacked. All right? Get that straight. A lot of these voices you've heard that you think are you, which might be moving you into suicidal thoughts, might be actually moving you into suicidal tendencies, depression, thoughts of divorce, whatever it is, understand that's not you. It's not called self-talk. It's just a voice in your head. Look, God tells us that there's 4 voices we can hear. You can hear his voice, your voice, the enemy's voice, and the world's voice. Now, which one's speaking the loudest? Which one should be speaking the loudest? How do you know it's him? Well, I have a great video for you on that. I'm going to link it below. I just realized that. I'm like, hey, let's hook you up. I'm going to link it below. A video where I talk about how do you know it's the voice of God, because look, I think you need to be equipped with that right away. I'll make sure it's in the show notes or whatever the heck you call these things. My job is not to be a professional YouTuber or podcaster. I use this as a platform to help those I serve already so that I can continue to build a relationship with you and take you to the next level without, always having to be together in person, okay? So look, love you guys. Remember this. You were a soldier, you're no longer a soldier. You were a police officer, you're no longer a police officer. You were a firefighter, you were an EMT. You are a protector becoming a kingdom operative. That is my argument, and I believe that fully. And you becoming a KO requires training. So, hey, I said it many times, but I believe in this thing fully. So I'll tell it to you one more time. Go to leadwithko.com and come join us in the Crucible for 5 days of training where you will watch a training, you will participate in an actual action in your life, you will get out there, you will go take action, you will build community, you'll have a live training with me as well, and you can qualify for a commissioning service from the Kingdom Operatives. That is for you if you are someone well, you've had it. You're done. You're ready to move on. You're tired of the holding pattern, and you are ready to be released into this next stage of your life as a better father, husband, and leader. I'll see you there. Continue mission.